Bruce here, Murphy, North Carolina, June 2nd, 2024. We're here at the Old Wells Boarding House, number 2. Number 1 is long since gone. Here with Cherokee County Historian Cameron Killian as we take a tour of this historic house. Let's go, because we don't know how much longer bits of history like this will last, and people around to tell the story.
That's right, Bruce. Well, best I can tell, this place was built around 1935, according to the tax record. That would have been right in the middle of the TVA years, sort of toward the beginning, really, and right in the middle of the Depression. Now, we mentioned Wells House number 2. The original house was over that way, where that single-story house is now.
You can just see the roof.
It was a large, sprawling wooden affair, probably built around 1900, larger than this house, if you can imagine. And it served tourists and locals alike coming from the Southern Railroad and L&N Railroad just down the street. And I believe during the TVA years, the population swelled so much here that there was not enough rooms in Murphy for the men and their families for the TVA. So they took this empty lot and built this place. And it's pretty much unchanged since the 30s. All original windows and doors, no heat, no air. But we'll see that when we get inside. Now this carport was original and they've extended it, but there was originally a carport here. As you can see, the beams coming from the wall there, and then the new roof is above them.
Wow.
Don't mind the junk. That's just character.
It's history.
Now this lot we're walking over, is a tidbit real quick, this used to be the home of Felix Palmer, the one that's been long gone, not the more recent. But he was the blacksmith here in this part of the town, and his blacksmith shop was over behind Dickey Supply. This would have been turn of the century.
This stonework is something else.
The men that built this were probably part of the Civilian Conservation Corps or that Public Works Administration.
The WPA?
Yeah, WPA. They probably had something to do with that, because it's the same type of architectural stonework that you see throughout the country at that time. Lots of public buildings were built with this stonework and different things too.
Now that line I see up there, that grout work.
Yep. Old back porch, long gone. Once was a porch there. Got the original shingles still holding on. That one's hanging on for dear life.
Fascinating. They don't build them like that anymore.
No. If it's lucky, it'll be here another 90 years.
Now I understand there used to be a photographer.
Yes.
Here.
After the Wells family sold the house, early 40s, a photographer by the name of Robert A. Crisp purchased it. He was from Robbinsville, Graham County, and he was a photographer in the early 1900s, all the way up until his death in the early 50s. He purchased this house, and he did have a photography studio in the front room, eventually moving into this building here, as we see the white building. That was the Crisp Studios after it moved out of this building. And then I assume that would have been built after the old Wells boarding house burned, which would have been in this whole lot here would have contained that house. up almost to this stone wall. And it burned in 1947. 1946, 47.
Wow.
Almost catching this house on fire, but I believe since it was made of stone and the asphalt or asbestos shingles, it probably saved it. And there's a photo we'll try to maybe get included at some point of the Black Murphy baseball team standing on this wall, early 40s, getting their picture made for their team photo for Mr. Crisp. And in the background you can see the wall of this house.
Once again, fascinating stonework and those raised grout joints.
The men that built this place would have been born probably in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Some of the older craftsmen probably even earlier than that.
Fascinating. And it shows no signs whatsoever of coming apart or deteriorating.
Very little aging to it for being 90 years old.
Well, it helps that it's not painted either.
Yeah, no paint. It's always had the green shingles.
Now, what is it about red brick, and especially our Murphy red brick, that tends to be porous, that if you paint it, eventually it weathers and damages?
Well, they say that once you paint it, that blocks all the airflow and the moisture from escaping the brick. They're supposed to be able to breathe, really, like you mentioned, porous. And if they can't breathe, the moisture gets trapped in there and will eventually degrade the material and cause the building to structurally come apart. So unless you use a very special paint that's for that purpose, it can hurt the building. So if anybody wants to paint brick, just look into that. Now these storm windows were added later on, probably in the 60s, but the original windows are still underneath.
I actually have the same type of storm windows on my house, which was built in 47.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed a shot back here I wanted to get of the old electronics peeking through the window.
Oh yeah.
Forgive me.
Oh.
Ah, there we go. To add a nice little piece of nostalgia.
Hopefully the glare is not too bad.
With these cataracts, I can't tell. What do you say, people? Can you see it? I hope so. Now, once again, this is an ongoing series, just started, to capture history in Murphy. Now, if you have a building, something unique to Murphy, please get a hold of me. We want to document this. If you don't want anybody to know where it is, I'll take care of that too. We'll keep your privacy. Now, we're going to take a look at a photo.
So we've got Henry Rose, Nina Rose, Vayuta, and I believe this was little baby Clarence. This is my great-great-grandparents, my great-grandmother, and a great-uncle. My great-grandmother purchased this house in 1963 or 62 for her parents to live in, which at that time they would have been in their early 60s. But this is them. This would have been around 1927. At that time they were probably living in Unaka.
Wow, that's a drive.
And Mr. Henry here, he was the deputy sheriff here, and he was part of the moonshine hunters that would go up into the mountains and bust the stills up and unfortunately destroy people's livelihood. But that was the law at the time, prohibition. This was the last place that they lived in this house.
Wow. Now I understand this staircase also has a little bit of history.
So Henry, in the photo, the story goes he had purchased this from some surplus sale and added it onto the house. At that time they had an apartment upstairs. It was just the main family downstairs, and then 2 or 3 families lived upstairs, and he added that for privacy so the renters wouldn't have to go through the bottom half. Now we take an educated guess that staircase was from the Regal Hotel, probably a portion of the fire escape. And we all know the Regal Hotel burned and was subsequently tore down around 1978, somewhere in there. But I would have to say that this is from the hotel.
Ooh, and at the very base, a piece of our famous Murphy blue marble. Nice.
Very slick when it's wet.
Yeah, marble will do that.
And some of the furniture in the house, a few pieces came from Regal as well.
All right, let's get inside, take a look around. Now, we won't be seeing everything today. Just a walk through and get a little taste and hear some more stories.
Here we've got the foyer area, the main hallway. As you go down the hallway, we've got some built-in shelves here that are covered up. These would have just been used for storage. And here, which we won't look at today, was my great-grandmother's bedroom, great-great-grandmother. And there's another room in the very back where Henry slept. They had separate bedrooms. And then, of course, originally these would have just been 2 rooms for the guests to stay in here. The lighting is okay. This is the...
No, better open that door back up. It's dark.
This is the... I don't know if we can get it open, but anyway, if you can see, that's the access to the pipes and the utilities under the floor. Could have been some moonshine hidden down there in the old days, or who knows what.
And from what you said, that's 2 feet?
Yeah, about 2 feet worth of headspace, if you call it that. I definitely wouldn't fit down there. So... But there's no telling what's down there over the years that's been left.
And of course, this is the back door that we looked through.
This here is one of the bathrooms. It's been remodeled somewhat. The upstairs bathroom is mostly original.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the upstairs bathroom.
Including the original tub. And we'll make a note at the height of the door frame.
Oh, yeah.
I'm 6 foot and change. And as we can see, I'd get a concussion if I wasn't watching out. But the other door frames are slightly taller. Just the bathrooms are short.
Yeah, mine's the same way. My house was built in 47, but I've got the same shrunken bathroom door. I don't know, maybe it was a Quaker mentality back then.
This is the kitchen, which originally featured the second fireplace, or the second chimney. I assume it was connected to a cooking stove. The chimney's since been removed. But you've got a kitchen, washroom, and the dining room is in front. Here we've got storage under the staircase. Here, as well as here, we've got some damage from the renters over the years. But
wow. All right, let's... And speculation whether this part was add-on to enclose the staircase or it was genuinely like that from the beginning.
I think if it wasn't original, it was very soon after. And we could show this while we're here. As we can see, some people may or may not know, but as we can see there,
There we go.
And if you'll show the back and read the town there. Murphy, North Carolina did have a knee-high RC bottling company, which was just 100 yards from here.
And if you have any of these old bottles laying around, get a hold of Cameron. I'm sure he's interested to talk to you about them.
Make a deal.
Oh!
So this hall tree, best I can tell, was always here. From the earlier days, possibly even the beginning. And then we've had some damage, of course. This was not original. Unfortunately, the house is not in the best shape, looks-wise, but it's here.
Well, we all deteriorate over time.
This would have been originally probably the sitting room, the main room for the guests. Later on, it was a photo studio Mr. Crisp had in here. And then way later on, it was just a regular living room. But I have it sort of set up as an old store at this point, just as a hobby. Future details on that possibly to come at some point.
For Killian's haberdashery.
We're going for a menswear sort of soda and candy, old-fashioned type deal. In the center of that picture is Miss Nettie Dickey at the Dickey Hotel, or the Dickey House, or the Drummer's Rest, or the Quadruple X as it was called, which operated from 1884 till 1947. And she ran it at the helm of that hotel from 1884 until she died in 36. So technically, if this place was built in 35, she would have possibly seen it. But her hotel was one of the most famous in West North Carolina, and it was about 300 or 400 yards from here.
Fascinating. What a collection.
As we can see here, Murphy. Cheerwine, another North Carolina establishment based out of Salisbury. RC was based out of Columbus, Georgia.
Oh yeah, my daughter lives in Pennsylvania, and every time she comes back, graduate of Hiwassee Dam, every time she comes back, that's a must. She has to get her cheerwine.
Now this is a photo of R.V. Wells and Maddie Wells. Now she ran the old Wells house, which was next door, and I would have to assume this one as well, being built in 35, and she died in 44. This was her husband. He was a Royal Mail carrier for the town of Murphy. He died around 1916. Both were born before or around the Civil War. Both of them are buried at Harshaw Chapel Cemetery up above Murphy.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That could be a future video.
Yes. Actually, the cemetery is on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I did one video after some vandal damage, but
Yep.
I've been wanting to go back to do a total video of the whole shooting match, and possibly wherever Lincoln's.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're buried in the back right portion of the cemetery as you're facing it.
Yeah, the cemetery Cameron's talking about, very unique, beautiful headstones. Unfortunately, got hit by some vandals a couple years ago. Woe be to them if they ever surface and get caught. Mm-hmm. People were not happy. All right, what to say we head upstairs?
Let's go. To your room, sir.
Thank you. Now, this being part of the boarding house, and these doors still have the numbers on them after all these years. They were not removed, changed, adulterated.